Hi there, it's Laura from Goldstar Work here. Today I am going to do a Kiwi Christmas design in watercolour. First off, I start out with some idea sketches, and I've drawn this one here. And then I've transferred it onto my watercolour paper. I am using 150 gram A4 piece of. Then I have taped it onto a piece of cardboard. Now the cardboard is actually a just the back of a pad that I've used up because it's a good thick sturdy cardboard, and I have stuck it on with some green painter's tape. Now this tape is like masking tape, but it's it doesn't stick as hard, so it's easier to get off, but it's not the low tack stuff, which seems to fall off really easily, especially if you use a hairdryer to dry anything. So that is what I'm using. I'm going to be using some watercolours. I'm not sure exactly all the colours I'm going to use, but I think I'm going to be using yellow ochre and lemon yellow, a darker yellow, some bright red out of this palette here, and some sap green, and maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue, and some burnt sienna. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to be using. And I'm going to be using some round brushes. This is a number 4 round brush, but a 00 small brush. And for the pen part, I am going to be using some permanent liner, and this is an 03 tip. So it's going to be like a pen and wash, but it's watercolour and pen. So we're going to do the wash first, and then we'll move on to the pen when the wash is dry. So that's enough talking, and let's get on with the picture. Now I'm going to let this part dry before I go into the head, because if I start doing the head now, my colour will bleed. So I'm going to go into my bright red. I'm going to do the outlines first. It's kind of like colouring in, because it's basically just doing the outlines and then filling in the middle. Put a bit more water on my brush. And it doesn't matter if I leave the odd bit that doesn't get painted, I'm not worried about that. And put a bit more saturated colour on my brush, and just drop it in where I want more of the red, and just let the paint do its thing. That's the beauty of watercolour, it'll move around and do what it wants to do. And while I've got some red, I can do little berries. And I think I want some darker red to go with those little berries, so I've got some here that I just need to add some water to. I'll let that water soak in a bit. That's the other beauty of watercolour, is that you can just leave your palette and let it dry out, and then just add water to get it to work again. like acrylic, that you've got to keep wet. Just adding a little bit of darker red in there. And I'm leaving some white bits on the berries for some highlights. Oops, throw my brush away. And then I'm going to grab some of this cadmium yellow, and for the pom-pom, I'm not going to do a solid colour, I'm just going to go around making it look more pom-pom like, and I'm going to put some of this yellow around where the light bits of the centre hat will be. And before I do anything else, I'm going to dry this off so that I can do the next bit. Now, what happened there is I had too much liquid on here, and as soon as I put the hairdryer on, it started to move around, which is not what I wanted. So to fix that mistake, I'm just readjusting my hat. There you go. You'd never know that that was a problem. I might just let that liquid soak in a bit before I put the hairdryer back on there. But this bit here is dry enough that I can do the next bit now. So I'm going to go into my lemon yellow and I put some of that in the middle of his face. And then go into the colour I used for the body. And I'm also going to get some of the burnt sienna, mix that in, not too much. So I just want to be able to tell the difference between the body and the head. Go around his eyes. And then I've rinsed off my brush and it's still damp, and I'm going to mix that yellow and the other colour that I put on there. I'm going to get my brush and do little tiny strokes for the fur, the tiny feathers, because Kiwis don't have traditional type looking feathers that most birds have. They look a bit like fur, but they are feathers. Now I should have done that around the body too, but I forgot. But that's fine, because I can just go back and do that, because I've got the same colour on my palette here, so it won't matter. A bit too much paint on there, but that's fine, because just scoop that up. This isn't a particularly thick watercolour paper, so you do get a little bit of buckling, which is why it's good to tape it down. But I'm not wetting the whole paper either. If I was doing that, I would either have to stretch my paper or use like a 350 gram paper, because that would be more robust and it would put up with what I'm doing now. Without buckling. And I'm just putting a bit of water on there just to smooth that out so it doesn't look too patchy. Now I want some green. I'm going to go into my sap green. And paint the leaves the same way as I did the rest of it. got some Payne's grey here that I haven't activated yet, so I'm going to activate that. I think I'm going to use a smaller brush actually, because I want to do the eyes. And I'm going to use some burnt umber to make a darker brown. Now, the head's not quite dry enough, so I'm going to dry this off so I can do the next bit. And for my Kiwi's beak, I've got a bit more of the burnt sienna. And I've got a bit of orange. I just dried off my brush a little bit. And I'm going to go into the lemon yellow. I'm kind of skipping around my painting so that I can let some of it soak in before I carry on. And I'm just going around with the lemon yellow onto the fluffy bits of his hat. I don't know why it's a he, but that's what I've decided it is. And I'm going to go into my smaller brush, my 00. And we're putting in his feet. And I'm going to do some whiskers. And I want to do the rest of the leaves here. So I'm going to get some of my sap green and mix some of the ultramarine blue in to make it darker. And I didn't like that colour, so I'm putting in a little bit of phthalo green as well. Now I have to let this dry completely before I go in with the pen. So I'm just going to let that cool down, and while it's cooling down I'll show you some other ones that I've been working on. So this is the kind of thing that I'm working on. These are all done in exactly the same method. And these are all in my Redbubble shop if you would like to purchase cards or other things with those on them. And now I'm going to get my pen and I'm going to do some outlining. And the idea is not to be too precise about it, because you want to keep that feeling of spontaneity in it. And I'm not going to outline the feathery bits with a solid line. I'm going to make them feathery bits around the edges. And once the pen is completely dry, I can take the pencil off and it will be finished. So a quick and easy Christmas design. Now I've chosen kiwis because I'm a New Zealander, and so kiwis are like our national bird, and I thought it would be cute. But you can use anything just turn it into a Christmas design. Put a Santa hat on something and it's a Christmas design. So use your imagination and have fun with it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.